Safety and security can absolutely feel boring at first, especially if your nervous system or whatever, or even just your mind, or, you're used to things being a little bit more chaotic and you've adapted to things being more chaotic to where it, like, I don't know, like for some of you, it could have been to where, you had to sort of like develop this ability to sort of find chaos fun in some way, or entertaining for the sake of your own like sanity or whatever, to the point where you could have even like been convinced and like reprogrammed on a subconscious level to find in some way, I don't want to say like animosity, but sometimes, yeah, like finding like animosity and conflict amusing, you know. But I'm getting that you're entering this time of your life where, like, you know, I don't know, things are more consistent, they are more secure and stable. And so there's less like spikes in adrenaline that are going to be caused by certain areas of your life, you know? Um, you know how I like play a lot of video games, or I used to, sometimes it's more of a thrill and like exciting to play in survival mode, even if it's harder that way, and like, and then so if you switch over to easy mode, then obviously it's like, oh, the game becomes boring because it loses that, like, I don't know, like the severity or like the seriousness of it, but I'm getting that, like, so if this has to do with, like, so say you're used to relationships that are more chaotic, and so now you maybe like are getting to the point in a new connection where you're realizing there is nothing wrong and it can just flow easily and naturally, and you don't need to keep looking for problems. You can kind of just like chill and flow with things. And so your mind can, like, you could be wrestling with your mind trying to self sabotage you into thinking, like, oh, is this like boring? Do I even want this? But you do. You want a relationship to be consistent and steady and for there not to be a roller coaster. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, roller coasters can be fun, but like, you want to ride a roller coaster for the rest of your life, obviously. You know what I mean? You can't sleep on a roller coaster or have nice meals. You know what I mean? So it's sort of like, and that will dissipate, like that sense of, oh, this is boring because it's too consistent. You don't need to make things more complicated for the sake of your own enjoyment, because this could have to do with, like, oh, say you have been consistent in a workout routine and it's working, but you're like, oh, this is kind of boring, maybe I should ramp it up a little bit or make it more intense. But you could like quickly burn yourself out doing that or injure yourself, and why ruin what's, or like, not ruin necessarily, but why interfere with what's already working if you just keep being consistent in that area. The reason why it feels boring is because it's like you don't need to expend your mental energy like strategizing in regards to that aspect of your life anymore. And it could just be like, things in your career are flowing, so you don't need to always be, I don't know, I don't want to say like plotting or whatever, but you don't have to like play the office politics games and stuff like that anymore. And you don't have to always kind of freak out or like stay up late at night figuring out how to get your next promotion. It's kind of just like your natural performance is already like excelling and stuff like that and pushing you in the right direction, so you don't need to expend your energy thinking about that anymore. It just can be natural now. And like, it feels boring because you're not supposed to be focusing on that so much. You're just supposed to allow it to just naturally flow, okay? um so that you can spend mental energy on other things like hobbies. It's supposed to be like a gift, that consistency has become sort of rhythmic now, and natural and automatic. Like, allow certain things that are going well to be on autopilot, and then you can focus on other things that will increase your overall, you know sense of joy. It's supposed to give you more mental energy to focus on the things that you may, especially, as an adult or whatever, you're like, oh, I don't have time to focus on those things anymore, or I can't prioritize those things anymore because I'm not a child and I don't have the energy to do that when I get home. But it's like, now you're going to have the energy to do those things because you don't need to worry if this person is betraying you or cheating on you, if they're going to leave you tomorrow. It's just safe. The connection is safe. You know, you don't need to worry about if you're going to lose your job or if you're going to like make ends meet, because it's just progressing in the right direction. It's safe. So now you may find that, like, you may start to sort of, I don't want to say like entering back into a childlike mindset, but it may be easier for you to pursue things or fall back into behaviors and habits, like in a positive way, right? That you had when you were, I mean, I would keep getting like middle school era, you know? Um, so say you had some passions, right? From when you were younger, okay? Um, that you had to sort of let go of. I'm getting like, especially if, you know, there was some sort of hobby or interest that you had that was almost like, I don't want to say it was compulsive, but it was a thing that you could like get lost in for hours and hours and hours, and you almost had to sacrifice that in some way. Um, you know, as you got older, priorities shifted around, you know, and you just had less time for that, or it became something to where, you know, for example, if you were a writer, okay, and you love to write or you love to draw when you were a kid, and it got to the point where you're like, oh, well, I need to focus my energy on something that would actually be able to make me money in the future. And then, you know, maybe you try to get to a point where that hobby could be monetized and it like ruined the enjoyment of that thing. This could even be like a sport too, like if it got too serious to the point where you just started to hate it, you know? But now you're getting to a point in your life or whatever to where you can go back into that thing and it will actually be fun for you again. You know, it will actually bring you that enjoyment and emotional fulfillment to the same degree as it did when you were younger. And this could even have to do with like exploring music that isn't influenced by your peers, you know, like feeling free or comfortable, I guess, or having the energy. It's sort of like this natural inspiration to where you will just find it spark, like the inspiration like sparks you randomly. You know, it's not something where you have to sit down and be like, okay, well, what would emotionally fulfill me more at this time in my life or whatever, or what would make me happy right now. It just sort of like sprouts up naturally. It's sort of like as you go about your day and your life, you are naturally like, I keep saying that. So I guess it's not supposed to be something that requires a lot of mental effort. It just like pops up, you know, like an epiphany, or you know, if it resonates for you, you may feel like your muse came back. And it does have to do something like with you being more in the present moment. And like as certain things in your life are just starting to go well, then you may not, like, again, I keep saying that, but you may just find that you don't need to numb yourself anymore, or that sense of requiring a distraction, um or like you need to cope with your life, that is like dissipating, you know. So you may find yourself doing things that are less like mindless, like less mindless scrolling, less like you know, binge watching stuff, or, you know, less drinking or smoking, which, like, you know, everything in moderation is fine. I'm not going to tell you not to ever do those things. And this isn't really an advice thing, anyways. It's kind of like confirmation or whatever. Confirmation of like things to come or the energy that you're entering or you are in right now. So, say for me, like, I guess this is just an example. I was like, obsessed with writing fan fiction, to where, you know, I would finish my work in class really early and then just write fan fiction for the rest of the day or whatever and stuff like that. But it's only because I would become so passionate about certain characters to where it would fuel that interest, you know. And then it has been a long time since I have felt any sort of emotional tie or investment in any sort of like storyline or characters, you know. And then suddenly, that sort of like impulse comes back, and then you're like, oh wow, you know, I'm feeling compelled to do something that I haven't felt like I had the mental energy or inspiration to do for years and years and years. And it's something that, you know, was a primary source of joy, you know. And especially if you're coming out of a hard time where things kind of felt mute, you know, it's like, you know, you go outside and you see nature or whatever, but everything still kind of feels gray regardless of how many colors you see, you know. It's like the vibrancy is coming back in your life to where, you know, it's not so hard to get out of bed in the morning, and you may find it like hard to go to sleep at night only because you're so invested in things that you're passionate about. You know, it's less like the days aren't like dragging on so much. It's like they are filled with something. It's like the days feel more abundant, right? Even if it's just a normal day.